And we're live. Welcome back to another Corona Geek here where we talk about mobile app development using Corona SDK. I'm your host, Charles McKeever, and today we've got a whole lineup of topics that I'm very excited about. First of all, we're going to talk about Coronium Game Server, version 1.0 coming out. Yay! Yay! We're also going to look at some Windows phone apps that are actually in the Windows Store, and those are made with Corona. And we're also going to talk about look at some code for swiping objects on the screen to specific points within your game or app or whatever you're doing with it there. So we've also got we were having a sidebar conversation just a moment ago about upgrading and kind of a callback from one of the episodes that we had previously. So hopefully we'll have some time for that as well. So before we get into the Coronium thing, basically, I just want to remind everybody to go back and listen to Corona Geek 109. Where we talked about, actually, Sergey went through the whole highlights from the Lua workshop that happened in Moscow. So if you guys haven't had a chance to go check that out, go do that. There are links in the show notes to the slides that Sergey went through, and basically he highlighted a bunch of great things that are coming that are either in Lua or are coming for Lua, so go check that out. Also, if you haven't had a chance to go over to Corona University, go to corona.com/university, and there are a ton of guides and tutorials there. We have over 100+ videos. We just finished up a series on physics joints. The last two videos there were on gear joints and wheel joints, and if you've never used joints before, you should try them out. They're a lot of fun. And we've got the videos there to show you, kind of give you the insights into the concepts and how they work, and show you some code examples, walk you through those as well. So go check that out. There's a whole lot of stuff over there in the university. Also, I want to say congrats to Bad Crane. They have their RGB Express mini truck game. I don't know if you guys have seen this. If we get a chance later, we'll pull it up on the screen and give it a look. But it's basically think about trying to plan UPS or FedEx the routes for delivery using multiple trucks and get them from point A to point B, picking up packages and dropping them off, and not having your trucks run into each other. So it's a fun game. They've got a lot of great things, and hopefully we'll have a few moments later to check that out, but we'll also put a link in the show notes in case we don't. And I want to kick off a new thing here on Corona Geek. Basically, I want to do a high score contest. And so what we want to do is, if you guys haven't done this before, I want you to go download Sergey's 2048 Hex, which is available for the iPad and iPhone. And I think it's also on Android, right, Sergey?
Yes, Android and iOS.
So I want you to go download that game and play it, play your heart out. And then when you think you have a high score, I want you to go over to the Corona Geek Facebook page, and I want you to post a screenshot of your high score there. And what we're going to do is, we're at the end of, the beginning of November 3rd, we'll announce the winner. And then we'll pick a new game to play, and the winner will get a $50 gift card to the retailer of their choice. We'll have to work that out. Since we have an international audience, we don't want to necessarily pick one particular gift card, but we'll work out the details after the fact. But basically, play the game, post your high score, and then we'll pick a winner on November 3rd. And you can post as many high scores as you want. So if you find that you play it and later you get a better score, then go ahead and post that as well. So all you have to do is go over to the Corona Geek Facebook page and post your screenshot there. So if you guys have any questions, just email coronageek@coronalabs.com and let me know, but that's the basics. And we'll also put a link in the show notes to spiralcodestudio.com so you guys can go and download the 2048 Hex game. All right. I think that's it. I really want to get into this Coronium GS thing. I know that Chris, you sent me a game that we're probably going to be demoing today. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Do I need to restart it?
For some reason, my reflector, I just bought a license for it because I had forgot, but I'm not having much luck. But I can still play it on mine, and then you can install it on yours as well.
Yeah. Did you download the latest version of Reflector?
Oh, maybe that's what it is.
If you have iOS 8 installed on the device, you need to update to the latest version of Reflector because it didn't, for some reason, it just didn't work properly. Just a major OS upgrade, all that kind of stuff.
You did that on your device specifically.
I just did that. Yeah, I just did that the other day, and it does come up. So here, I'll bring it up. I'll share it on my screen.
Okay. Cool. All right. So yeah, basically, there's. Let me see if I can pull mine up. The Coronium GS, for those who know, is a game server that's built on Lua, and moved very quickly from alpha. Just decided to skip beta since the alpha was pretty much beta, and then so now we're at release 1. I had a couple of contributions to some of the core code, and so I'm really excited about that because it really fine-tuned some of the inner workings. Mean Games. I don't know if anybody's ever seen him on the forums. He pitched in some work on it, so that really tightened it up. So I'm pretty excited. What I want to do is just kind of show some more code, just to kind of get an idea of, kind of how simple it is really to get this going. Once you kind of understand the concepts, like any kind of framework, you just once you get the concepts down, then it's pretty simple stuff. So this one is a very simple template for rock, paper, scissors, Rochambeau. It's just a very simple game, and this was to demonstrate zero production value, but to give a little template of how these things work. So,
excellent, Chris. Are you showing us your screen? Because we're not seeing that.
Oh, I'm seeing your screen. So I guess.
Yeah.
I don't think I have. Or am I seeing? Is everybody else seeing Charles's screen as well?
Yes.
Okay. Did you download the newest one, Charles?
The newest version of the game, yes. I did that just before the show started.
Okay, cool. Let me see if I can get in there. I'm just gonna, since I can't get my reflector working, I'm just gonna, you'll be able to see me, but you're just not gonna be able to see what's going on my side. Okay. So I'm there. So it's kind of hard to see the chat on his side, but basically this is a lobby screen. There's a screen before this that you didn't see where he punched in his name, Corona Geek. It was a sign-in page. And so what's happening here is this is kind of some lobby chat. So if you were, you can get a bunch of people in here and be in the lobby. And I'm sending messages to him. And if he types a message into this little text field there, then he's also, I'm seeing his messages too. And so basically, there's a couple different methods now on how you can create games, just to kind of give a lot of different variety. You can create games and give them basically kind of a specific kind of criteria. So that makes it easy to, like, hey, I want to only join a game with hard difficulty, or I only want to join a game with people who like the color blue. There's all these different ways that you can create these criterias. That was added in, and then some people were like, hey, I liked the old way where it just did it automatically, so now there's both ways to do it. So this way is using the automatic way, the search for game. And so basically, when Charles just hit the search for game, I can see some statistics on my side that tell me that somebody's gaming. His says 0, but mine says 1. So if I just happen to come in, I hit search for game as well. Eventually, it's going to pair us up in a game. So we just got paired up. And these are my awesome graphics here for my rock, paper, scissors game. And then now we're in a game chat. So this is, if people are still in the lobby, they can be talking as well. But now this is just private for me and Charles for our game here. So, and basically, if anybody's familiar with rock, paper, scissors, it's a very simple concept. So the one thing that you won't be able to see, because I can't display my screen, is just what it will show is it'll show, as you see, he just selected scissors. I don't see anything yet on my screen, but once I select my item, then you'll actually see what my selection was, and you'll see that on his screen as well. So let's just pretend I didn't know he was putting scissors up, because I wouldn't know. And then, so I would make my choice. And let's see. Well, I would make my choice. Hello. There we go. And then it points out what my choice was. So I picked the rock, he picked the scissors, so I won. It gives you some stats down at the bottom. On his side, of course, it says he lost this round, and on my side it says I won this round. So we can both take our turns at any time we want, so I just made my move, and he can make his move. And so we just tied on that one, and then one more just for it's a quickness here. So he's ready to pick his at any time.
Oh, look there, we think alike. See, it's much better if you pick yours first, because I almost can't see yours.
So player 2 wins the game, and so that was me, even though I just randomly picked one. So then it jumps back to the lobby screen, and we're back in there. So obviously you could leave them in the game room for a while if you wanted to, and have that manually refresh later to the lobby, but that's just for the demo.
So a couple of things are going on here. Just make sure that I'm clear. Is basically you've got the back end Coronium game server, and then you've got this front end game, right? The app itself.
Correct.
And everything is being communicated via that Coronium game server. So you're in what, Oklahoma, and I'm here in Austin, and we're playing rock paper scissors together.
Exactly. Yeah. And so yeah, exactly. It's a real-time game server. Yes, we are doing it in real time. I'm not sending you a delayed message saying, hey, by the way, jump back in and take your turn by email or anything like that, or even a push message. It's all just straight up real time. So it works really good for these turn-based kind of games, and there has been some experimentation with some other types of games as well, which is some little more fast-paced games. But a lot of that deals with like predictive stuff and things that are a little bit over my head mathematically, but luckily some other people have been kind of playing with that, so I'm hoping to see some interesting things with that come soon. It's been embraced pretty quickly. I'm pretty excited, and so it seems to be working well. I wanted to go ahead and, if you don't mind, just show a little bit of the code that was running behind the scenes there.
Yeah, let's do it.
And so let me see, make sure I can.
Is this going to be the code on the game server itself?
Yeah, this will be. Let's see, where am I at? My screen sharing. Anything? Does anybody see anything?
I see me on your screen. Yes.
All right. Well, that's cool. All right. Let me see if I can get this. The Google screen sharing is such an exercise in patience. Okay. How about now? My desktop, hopefully?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
You're absolutely right. The desktop sharing should be a whole lot easier in Hangouts.
Yeah.
Make a big green button, please, Google.
Yeah, that would be very nice. So basically, just kind of the main server itself has a handful of files that you basically don't need to play with. These are just the base files, unless, of course, you wanted to contribute some code. And those are all on Bitbucket.
Now, is this the server that we're looking at, or the client?
We'll be looking at both. We're going to look at the client, so we can see how they kind of interplay together.
I just wasn't sure which screen we were seeing right now.
Oh, yeah. I will definitely point that out here as we continue along here. So this is the, let's start with the client side. So this is just the main.lua. That's pretty common for all entry points. And then I've built this around a composer template. So I just bring in my Coronium GS client. This is on the client side. And then it does have a flag for if I want to globalize it. And in this case, I usually do that just because it's easier to transport it across the different scenes on Composer, etc. And the first scene is the sign-in scene, and I've gone ahead and just kind of like marked off the parts that are only game server related, because a lot of it's just, I would say 80% to 90% of the code in these files is just regular setup stuff, regular Corona things that you do, the fields and etc., etc. So all this stuff is just regular Corona stuff. In this sign-in, all we're doing is making the connection, basically, once they enter in their name, and then we connect up to the server, whatever your server address is. And then the way that Coronium GS works, it's all event-driven. So when the scene is the scene show, which is a method of the composer, When that kicks in, I'm just saying, okay, let's start listening for this client connect event. And when you hear that event happen, run this method on client connect. And then I also have to make sure that I remove that event listener once we destroy that scene. So when you hit enter after you put in the name, and again, this is the part you didn't see. It's the very first screen. You put in your player name, and then it'll just run this connection event on client connect. It's pretty much doing nothing. It's just turning off the activity indicator while it's waiting to connect to the server, and then it's jumping to the lobby. So it's very simple. And from there, the most complicated scene would be the lobby scene. And again, it's all event-driven, so I'm just going to scroll down here to the bottom. And so now we've kind of created some handlers for some new events. So there's a client data event, close event, game create event, cancel, and a start event. And again, these are all just connected to some methods. And always make sure that you remove them too when you leave the scene. So this one is, the lobby scene is the most complicated one because not only are you doing the lobby chat, but you're also facilitating bringing in some stats and matching the game when it's time to play.
Chris, so, is it complicated or sophisticated? Because everything that you've done on this, you've worked to remove the complexity of it. So
I guess when I say complicated, I don't mean sophisticated. Almost sounds just too.
Would you like a cup of tea?
Yeah.
Maybe too highbrow.
I guess it's stuff I consider. I guess it depends. Most of my teaching background has been kind of beginning and intermediate, so I probably go cautious and say complicated, even though for most normal programmers it won't be complicated at all. But I think just because if you're learning a new kind of framework, then there's a few bumps you usually have to ride over. But a lot of it's just simple stuff. I mean, we're just printing out stuff into text fields is basically what's happening. We're just getting data back from the server, and then we're just putting it into different data fields. So, for most, if you've done any kind of Corona programming, it's going to be very simple in that regard. The main thing you just have to start to learn to understand with working with the game server is that you're basically sending messages back and forth. And these messages, which I call keyed events, are basically how your game runs. And so you have to start thinking in kind of a dualistic fashion of the client side and the server side, and then talking to each other. And you want to try to put as much as the logic as possible on the server side if possible, if you can. Of course, there'll be places where you can't, and then use the client side as the display mostly, and taking in input. So that's basically a majority of all these are just kind of these are just different built-in functions or methods for the game server. So I'm just getting their player handle, and then I'm sending some chat to the lobby, and so it's just some very simple stuff. And all of that, of course, is documented on the website here. So in the server docs, you have all of your different methods and that you can use and call. I'm on the client side right now, so I would use the client docs. And in here on the Coronium client, there's a method called send, and that's what you use basically to send your data back and forth. So it explains it all. Now, if we look, so that was the lobby scene. Then, just last but not least, is the game scene, and this is actually a very simple. This is where all the kind of the messaging takes place. So we're checking for there's a game chat message for when the game chat comes in, and it's just a simple method I call. And here's the actual data. Using a choose attack is one of my keyed events that I've you can create your. It's all up to you how you want to create your protocol. So I'm just doing some very simple things there. When the data winner comes in, then I can just do some simple stuff there textually. But you can see that it's very it's just a handful of calls to the actual game server itself. And then on the server side, it's just one big page. I can actually you could break this up into multiple modules if you wanted to, but here I'm just setting up some constants. And then you just go ahead and you can create your own methods, again, based off the events. They're very similar to what you get on the client side. So you have a game start event, game create, you have all your client events. and then again you just set those to different methods, and they're very similarly named so that it's easy to kind of work back and forth. So again, this is real simple stuff. I'm just using some of the methods to, in this case, this is the method that creates the statistics for telling me who's playing and who's connected. So all of this is just, regular, just run-of-the-mill loops and tables, and I have some, a couple built-in methods again that you can just get from the docs. There's a game creation, and this is the only one that's a little bit more customized. This simple code here is what lets it automatically create games. But you can do it in the other way too, like I was mentioning. And then this is the chunk of the game itself. Each game object, each game instance that's started has its own little data slot. And so I'm just capturing each of our choices as we're playing, and then I just do some comparative work here to find out who's the winner of that specific move, updating that data, and then sending that back down with what's called the broadcast method. And that will basically, anybody in that specific game instance will receive that message. And I got some different stuff for timeouts. This is the timeout basically at the end of the game. It says, after 3 seconds, go back to the beginning, and it sends. After 3 seconds, tell the player to make another move, so they get that message. It's just real straight, simple stuff, but utilizing messaging.
And of course, I noticed that when we were playing on the sample app, that everything, all the correspondence, all the prompts and things like that kind of took place in the text box, but you could implement that on the client side however you want, right? I mean, you could
Absolutely.
have animations and stuff.
Yeah, I didn't want to make that too fancy because I didn't want a bunch of people selling my rock, paper, scissors game. So.
That's an exercise for the reader.
Exactly. Yeah. I do actually plan to keep making more and more complicated and fancier templates. Maybe at a point in time, though, if it becomes to a certain level of quality, I might charge for it. But so there's some built-in stuff here. When I can publish that the game's done, it tells everybody that the game's done, and then I can mark it to be deleted, which it automatically kind of does that. So, again, I'm just mostly using broadcast calls here, just calling out any data. You just put it in a table, and it sends it down to the client, and then you can read it in as that. Here's the events that I'm dealing with on the server side. So data ready to play, data get client count. This is, if the client sends to me the get client count keyed event, then I just send them back send it back to them. This is where lobby chat's handled, game chat's handled. Here's our little attack stuff here, and then just some utility methods to deal with everything else. So it's pretty short and sweet. But
Chris, when you talk about
it, it's going really well.
When you talk about data, we're talking about what in memory data? Is that what we're talking about? I mean,
there's each game instance. The thing that's I think a good thing. Some people I think at the beginning thought maybe this is just you can only have one game. But this main.lua is actually kind of like a hub. So basically you run your connections through here. It's automatically going to kind of put people in these game instances. And when you're in the game instance, each instance is basically the same. It's like a Lua object, a Lua table. So except it has also the client sockets connected to it as well. So there's a data slot. You could actually use any slot you want, but there's some underlying methods that you can use that specifically will work on the data slot, which is just a key on that object. And those will persist as long as the game is running. And then there is an additional piece that's not part of it specifically, but there's another module that comes with it that you can use that can store that data for longer term if you wanted to. But that doesn't seem to be the biggest need really for this type of situation. Is to kind of get in, play the game. If you need to save some data off, do that before the game's over or cleared out, and then move on. So yeah, if anybody, I have instances running. They're really simple to set up. There's a number. There's 3 different regions on Amazon. It'll run on a fresh Ubuntu, DigitalOcean, and I've been really working with some people, doing some cool stuff. So if you do jump on and you want some help, or just need to learn, or just whatever, you have questions, hit me up anytime. and it's been a really cool project. And I'm gonna finally start making some games again after a year myself. So I'm excited. So, anyways, thanks for letting me share that. And Coronium GS.
Very cool. So, in this being 1.0 now, what were the big features from where it was to what it is now, and where do you see it going from here? Or are you prepared to share that yet?
Yeah, I think the biggest jump was some really nice cleanup in some of the messaging. Basically, kind of the heart of the operation, where it gets really fine-tuned into the nuts and bolts. There were a couple little changes that were proposed that were put in that they're just really cool. That really have helped with the speed and just keeping it super stable. So that's what kind of pushed it to a 1. And then honestly, I'm trying to get to a position to where we're not adding anything else. I'd like it to be kind of solidified, be a strong framework, and then from then out, it's just about training and getting the word out. So I feel that for the most part, it's close in that area. I think for me personally, what will push new versions is basically just more cleanup on code, more educational documentation, and that would be more of what I feel is the moving forward part. But I don't really think that, for me, I want to try to keep it simpler, and I'm actually going to be releasing another framework based off of this that's going to be extremely abstracted, so that it's not even a game server, it's a socket server. So you can basically build any type of applications you want that may need sockets. So in this case, where in the server, in the documentation, you have a game and a client, a Git player, and all this stuff. I'm stripping all that away and building it so that it's basically just kind of the base building blocks of a socket server, and then it's up to you to kind of create that protocol or whatever that you want to make with it. So,
Chris, I was just getting ready to ask that question, if you were going with the socket. And for those that are following along, the primary difference between socket or using the socket methods in Chromium or within any game development, sockets are generally used for doing real-time, instant passing of information back and forth between multiple clients, whereas not using socket is more turn-based type situation.
Yeah, definitely. So, socket socket connections are really cool. I play with them on and off.
Incredibly fast.
Yeah, and very fast. And the TCP socket itself too, is interesting because it's a kind of a fail-safe protocol. It seems strange. You think, well, I'm sending this message out, it's going to get lost somewhere, but it tries its darndest to get to its address, which can create problems for some people in certain game styles. That's why there's UDP, of course. But as far as if you want to make sure that your data is going to get there, it's going to try its hardest to get there. So it's reliable and it's all ordered as well, which is nice.
So as you're thinking ahead towards socket-based, are you planning on going through the server, or are you going to do peer-to-peer?
I haven't really played with peer-to-peer yet. It seems interesting. I like the server idea just because I tend to be into the server kind of thing. Well,
it gives for game development, it gives authentication and manage. Oh, that you're not cheating, things like that.
Yeah, authoritative servers are definitely the way to go. So yes, and there are already kind of some products out there. I think Autolan and even the NewPub, I think, does peer-to-peer, if I'm correct. I'm not sure 100%, and so I don't, I'm just not. I may look into that, but right now I'm definitely keeping it server-based stuff. It just seems to be the stuff I'm into.
Yeah. I saw that you had a folder there for modules and stuff. Are you saying that basically on the game server or even the socket server, you'd have a core foundation, and then people would be able to create modules based, to extend it? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you can even do that right now with the game server. So, if you really wanted to get in there, and if it makes a lot of sense to you quickly, then you can definitely expand that out. And I'm sure there probably are some people doing that. But yes, the way that the socket server would be, you just basically there's lots of uses for it in an application kind of framework as well, not just gaming. So for learning and screen kind of sharing kind of stuff, and business apps, and with the real-time aspect, you can really do some interesting stuff. And then with it being connected to a server, of course, you have that ability to reach out from a server to a Maps API or weather or whatever it is, your business backend, to pull data quickly and in real time. And yeah, so there's a lot of interesting applications. But again, I have to kind of abstract that out from a gaming standpoint, which I'm working on now. So it'll be nice. You'll be able to kind of have all sorts of different applications, not just one main application on your server. You'll be able to run a bunch of different application styles.
Fantastic, fantastic.
And I just want to say, I've been teaching game development now for 10 years, and teaching the multiplayer game development, or even the mobile apps that are connecting to a remote server. Just a couple of years ago, I was doing it all in PHP, and then I was looking at shifting to Node.js.
Yeah.
Chris, thank you, because Coronium has come along at just the perfect time for me as a developer and as a professor, that I'm now using this for all my classes to teach the networking side of things, how to create a game server. This so simplifies the entire process for myself and for teaching it to my students. And anybody who hasn't messed with it yet, get on there, mess with it, play with it. It's not going to cost you anything to get started with it, and it's so much easier than trying to do this all in PHP or Node.js or whatever other tools are out there, and you're not going to pay a bunch of money to do it.
Yeah, I can feel exactly what you're saying. That was the whole reason why I wanted to do it. I was doing the same thing, PHP.
It was on my to-do list, and you just saved me all this work, and I want to thank you.
You're very welcome. If you come up with any cool stuff, or your students make any cool stuff, I'd love to see it. That's also
that would be great. Yeah, we'll be hitting that in about 2 weeks. So yeah.
That always makes it really neat when I see people create stuff on it. It's really cool. It makes it all worth it.
Yes.
Well, hey, I want to take a moment to do something that I know Chris won't do himself, and that is point out that you can donate to the project if you'd like to support Coronium GS or Coronium Socket Server or Coronium IO. All the different Coroniums. If you'd like to support any of those, you can go over to. I'm going to say specifically go over to coronium.gs, and at the top of the page there is some options where you can support it, whether that's financially or by following and sharing or what have you. So you definitely go do that, guys. It's there's a lot of time, energy spent in this, and I know that Chris has done a lot to make sure that there's documentation and there's code examples, and he also provides, as you said, just contact him, and he will kind of help you with the different aspects of what you're trying to do. And so this is not backed by a huge corporation or anything like that. This is Chris and all of his time and effort, and so we want to thank him for that in financial terms and social media terms and everything else that we can. So go do that if you will, please.
Thank you, Charles. Appreciate that. Because follow is also just as good as a donation. So and I was really stoked that Corona Lab stepped up and made a donation. It really made a big difference. So. Very
cool. It's it's obvious that this isn't something you just threw together and kind of like, hey, here you go. It's got,
I don't want people burning my house down.
It's fantastic. So
thank you. And I appreciate all your support, Charles. You've given me way too much time to babble about this stuff, so I do appreciate that.
Hey, no problem. I think we need to do more of this. We need to have more examples as we go along. We were just saying a moment ago, go out and play with it. So, okay. So one last question, and then we'll move on to something else here. And that is the code that you had today. Is there a repo for that? Is there a demo?
Oh, yeah. If you scroll down on the page you're on right now, there is a link for the development bundle. Download development bundle, and that's where you can find all that code. There's actually a bunch of other demos in there too, but that's where the most recent dev bundle is.
Okay, excellent. So yeah, you guys go check that out and mess with it, because everything's provided. Why not?
Yeah, seriously, it's a fun weekend project if you just want to break something.
You're right, exactly. Okay, and you also have the packages there, so they can spin it up on DigitalOcean or Amazon. So I mean, it doesn't get any simpler than that. I know you have videos on everything as well. So
yeah.
Short of you coming over to their house and washing their car and feeding their dog and installing it for them.
Oh boy, I might do that too. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, let's move on to our next topic, and that is Windows Phone apps. So if you've been following along at home, Windows Phone support is in the works. It's in beta, and it's coming soon. And there's a few developers out there who have already put out some games. One of them is, I think it's Taps Game. Taps Games, they have come up with a couple that they've already put out into the App Store. So one of them is called My Boo, and the other one is illustriously called Toilet Time. And I have both of these apps here. If you go over to their homepage, tapsgames.com, then they have, I'm told, over 100 different games that they have produced using Corona. And if you scroll through their games list here, it just goes on and on and on and on, and it's categorized out by all the different categories and stuff. So they've put a lot of time and effort into these games, and they have some great artwork. They're very playful in their games. We'll look at the two apps I mentioned just a moment ago, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But those games are also available. Because they're using Corona, those games are also available on Android and on iOS. So and of course on the Amazon App Store. So if you're interested in seeing those and you don't have a Windows phone, then you can go over to tapsgames.com and you can check them out. We'll also have a link in the show notes, of course, but you can go check those out. So I'm just gonna real quick here. I want to fire up My Boo so you guys can kind of see that. So let me see here if I can get my screen sharing working the way I want it to. So here's and this is on this is running on iPhone 6 Plus, so it scales up well for that as well. So I'm gonna turn on the volume here just so you guys can hear it. Can you guys hear that? Let me turn it up. Okay, Brian's shaking his head. Okay, you can hear that? Okay. So this is a fun game. You've got a virtual pet, and you need to do different things with it. So you can feed him, or you can love him, or play games with him, and all that kind of stuff like that. So it's cute. It's cute. I haven't explored all of it fully, but it's got in-app purchases. It's got it's got social sharing. It's got news from their website. One of the things that I liked, I don't know if I saw it in this one or I saw it in the other game, but there's they had like a kind of a leaderboard of all their different apps too. So let me skip over to Toilet Time here for a moment.
Charles, could you go back there? They did something really interesting in that I would encourage other developers on getting coins. When that screen came up.
Which one was I on?
It was to get more coins.
Right there, so they didn't have purchase the shop.
The very top one, watch a video for free coins, and I'll bet that they're using interstitial ads. We've talked before about how interstitial ads could be the death of your app, and people may, not use it anymore. But this is a neat idea for adding coins and getting people to watch an interstitial ad at the same time, and you just got a coin for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you can see there
that is, as a game developer or somebody who's working on something, that is a nice way to throw an interstitial ad in and reward the person for watching the interstitial ad. And that's the way to do it if you're concerned about including those types of ads in your apps.
Yeah, and you can see there that my score went up, or my coins went up by 100.
That's cool.
Okay, you got 100 coins instead of just one. Get 100. Yeah, get 100 coins when you watch a. That's neat.
Now it doesn't seem to go away or gray itself out, so
you can keep doing that and get another 100 coins, and that's
pretty smart.
That is a very smart approach as a game developer. As I've said on other shows, I have deleted apps because of interstitials.
Oh, right.
Because it annoyed me so much. But, you know, if I got a reward and I needed some coins, that's a very smart approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a certain point where a game, you know, people are tired of games annoying them.
Yes.
And there needs to be some sort of value proposition there. And you're absolutely right. So, I would. It also kind of gets the person going, right? I mean, it's kind of like it's triage. What do they call that? Not triage.
But as a developer,
arbitrage.
You know, I'm getting stuff from the various ad providers all the time that, hey, if you go with interstitial ads, we promise you this kind of return for people watching the ads on your devices. And this is a nice, simple way to get those coins and to get a revenue.
I can't make him take his medicine. I can't make him take his medicine.
Okay, you're now a pill pusher. Okay.
Now I'm playing. Yeah, now I'm completely playing the game.
Just like my daughter.
Yeah. I love this though. It's a lot of fun. It's it's simple. I like games that are the interface is fairly simple. I started playing. At some point we need to break down. We're going to do a whole breakdown on Clash of Clans and Boom Beach because these guys are just.
I play Clash of Clans pretty much every day, just at least to harvest my materials on there.
Well, I'll tell you, the case study there is, I mean, the way that they have broken things down to get you come back over and over again, I mean, it's fantastic, and the interface is easy. Nice. The interface is easy to understand, and so I like those. I like games where you can just get it without a whole lot of instruction. So if we pull up Toilet Time here, moving on to basically they're not pulling any punches. It's people use their mobile devices in the bathroom, and they've basically included a bunch of mini games in here. And I don't know if you can hear the music, but they're playing on the idea of at least in America the toilet being called the throne, and so there's sort of this royal music that's playing, which coincides with the idea of the throne. So when you play, there's all these different things, and some of it's like garbage pail kid kind of stuff, right? It's kind of gross. It's they're not really pulling any punches here. So like for example, when you go in at this little plunger game here, there's the interstitial that you're talking about.
Yep, and that would cause me to delete the ad right there.
Yeah,
or the app.
Which maybe they're playing with that and seeing what works for them. But so here I'm just gonna move the plunger here. And you get something out of the commode. Now I don't know what that is. You can make up whatever you want. But the weirdest thing is it goes into a box. Why does it go into a box? I'm not really sure. So, but if I do it again, I get a whole cheeseburger out of the toilet.
I really don't want cheeseburger going into a box.
Yeah, it goes into a box. And these items are kind of randomized. You get different things out of the box. So I'm going to turn this down a little bit here. But if you play another game, if you go through, there's
concerns me that there's a museum.
They're just kind of randomized, and each game is you have to be fast, right? You have to figure out what's going on, what the point of the game is, pretty quickly.
Kind of like WarioWare.
Yeah, but it's erase the poo. Okay, so. They've added all these different mechanics into these. Like I said, it's just mini games and just something I guess to waste your time while you're sitting on the potty.
Taking a meeting.
Yeah. So anyway, I won't go through all of those, but if you guys get a chance, go check that out. It's Toilet Time. You can find that over at tapsgames.com. Where they have links to all of the different stores, and we'll also put a link to the Windows store as well. So you guys can go check that out. So they got really all the platforms covered pretty much. And then the other game that I want to talk about here is the one that we mentioned at the beginning of the show, an RGB Express. This one is a Corona app as well. Here, if you guys can hear the music. No, you're not hearing the music?
No.
Nada.
Huh, it's coming through really well over here. So anyway, it's got a nice, light, playful. I mean, it looks very cartoony, so it's got a nice, light, playful music to it, soundtrack. And then you pick your city that you want to work in here. pick your level, and then they have a little tutorial, kind of show you want to pick up your package, set your route, and pick up your package, and then deliver it. But then you get into some more advanced. So they walk you through basically the mechanics of it, and then they set you loose, having to plot different routes for your different vendors. Let's see here if I can. See if we. There we go. So we're delivering 3 packages to 3 different locations, and we're done, right? So it kind of it makes it really easy in the beginning so that you understand the concepts. What I thought was funny is that UPS and FedEx have spent millions of dollars, probably. I know they definitely have advanced computer algorithms that plot the most efficient ways to get packages to their customers, and now there's a Corona app for that.
Awesome.
Anyway, those are fun. We'll put links in the show notes to those, so guys go check those out.
That look cute. That look cool.
So the next thing, let's see, that we want to kind of round out the show with here before we run out of time is there is a tutorial over here on the Corona Labs website. So if you go to coronalabs.com/blog, and then let me find it here. Let me find my screen, and there's a tutorial over there on swiping objects to a fixed point. And so the tutorial is pretty short. Pretty straightforward, but we're just going to walk through the different bits of it just to kind of illustrate some of the things visually. So we'll put a link in the show notes to that, but I've got the code here on the screen. Let me switch over to that. Okay, sorry, I'm somewhere between 2 monitors. So let me switch over to that, and we'll bring up the code, and we'll also look at the app as well. So let me see what's the best way to do that. Let me get this off the screen. Yeah, here we go. All right, I'm going to kill Reflector. I don't think I need that anymore. All right, so now I've just got the app on the screen and the code. I guess you guys can see that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so Brian's shaking his head. Okay.
Yes.
So, all right. So, so this is pretty straightforward. Basically, what we want to do is we want to be able to swipe, and we want our ball here to go to specific points on the screen. So if I swipe to the right from all the way here from the far left, we want it to stop in the center. And if I swipe to the right again, we want it to go to that. So there's 3 specific points that are defined here, and those specific points are over here in our local variables. So we've got one that's basically 50 pixels off the left edge of the screen. We've got one that's been calculated for the center, and then we've got one that's on the right-hand side. And so what we're doing is defining those. Then basically we're creating that initial circle. So if we refresh the screen, we're creating that initial circle. Basically, we're putting it in the middle of the screen. So we just want to start out there, and then we set, of course, a kind of a radius or a size of the circle. And for the tutorial, we're doing that so that we don't have to worry about graphics. But you could, if you want to, you go and you could add custom graphics to this or whatever. But just for the illustrative purposes, we just want to go ahead and just create a circle just to illustrate the point. So then really, this comes down to being a touch event. So although we're swiping on the screen, Corona makes it really easy to handle these types of things because everything comes down to touch events. So we've got this touch event here, which we assign it a function of handle swipe, which is our function name here. And what we're going to do is whenever we touch the screen, if on the moved event, whenever we're sliding our finger across the screen, we're going to have a moved event, and what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the delta, the difference between where we started and where we end up. So if we slide our finger to the right, we're going to end up here when we let go, and there's going to be some sort of movement there. So basically, what we want to look for is that change 10 pixels or more. And we could set that, we could set it for 5, we could set it for 20, whatever basically tells us that, or indicates to us that a swipe has occurred. So those things get defined, and then as we move down through the code, we say, okay, if it's a swipe, if it's a movement and it's a certain distance, then what we're going to do is we're going to set the spot where we want the ball to go to. We're going to default it to right, and that's basically because our value, whatever we're going to come out here, is either going to be plus or it's going to be minus. Right? We're going to have a plus 10 pixels to the right, or we're going to have a minus 10 pixels to the left. So we're either going this way or we're going that way, right? So so that one calculation tells us, okay, if we're a positive number, then we're going to go right, and so we need to figure out next where our ball is. So if our ball is, let's say that we're when we first start out, we're left, which is this left up here. If we're here, then we want to set the spot that we want to go to be the center, right? We don't want to go all the way to the right. We want to stop in the center because we have 3 predefined spots that we want the ball to go to when we swipe. And so when we go right, we're going to check to see where we are, and then if we're all the way to the left, then we're just going to go to the center. If not, if we're already in the center, then we've already set the spot to right, so the ball will just go to the right. It'll just go one space to the right. So after that, we just do a transition, and we set the amount of time that we want that to happen in, and then we tell it basically where we want it to go, which is our spot, which was set, is either right or center or left. So then that's for the positive side, right? So that's plus 10 there. If it's a negative 10, so basically we want to go to the left at this point, then we pretty much do the same thing, only this time we're setting our initial spot as left. So we're saying, okay, we want to go left, but if we're already if we're all the way here to the right, so let's say our touch starts here and we swipe to the right, then we want to stop right here in the center. So if that's the case, if we're already right, then we're going to set our space where we want to stop in the center. Otherwise, if we are, say, over here in the center already and our swipe starts, then we'll just go ahead and move to the left. And the same thing happens again. We do the transition, and we tell it where to go, and that's pretty much it. So if you wanted to, you could go in and you could add additional values. If you had like maybe additional spaces where you wanted things to stop, so you could have additional breakpoints. Or if you wanted to, you could set, because this is all along the this is all along the horizontal plane, right? So you could, if you wanted to, you could set values for Y. So you could say, hey, I'm going to go vertical as well. So you could set values for that as well. So what do you guys think about that?
Nice, simple. I like it when an event is very clear, and you could do one little tweak to this to make it a little bit more efficient. Right now you've got 2 transition 2s, you only actually need 1. If you get rid of the first transition 2 and then move the second one down past that, the next end statement, you only need 1 transition 2 statement.
Little more of the dry method.
Yeah.
Don't repeat yourself kind of thing.
That's right.
The irony about the dry method is everybody repeats it.
Yeah.
Everybody says, don't repeat yourself.
But this is a nice, simple methodology to be able to teach and show how to do a swipe or a multitude of different types of directional events. By being able to compare that delta change, there's so many different things that we can take care of.
Well, the first thing that I thought of and how to apply this, and you guys tell me if you think of something else, is something like a maze. A very simple maze game where you have very predefined places where you want things to go, and then I'm sure there's other ways to do mazes, right? I mean, I'm not saying this is the only way you would do it, but you could sort of predefine those different paths. Of course, I'm drawing out a very obvious path, but you could predefine a lot of paths and then have someone be able to move along those, so that they could start on one place and end on another, and that would be it. Anything else? Any other things you guys could think of? I mean, I could see this being combined with game server, Coronium game server.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. The other interesting thing is, like, you could probably I'm just curious about how you could grid that out to not even have to predefine the point. So that you start in the center, and then it's 10, always 10 to the right, and then another 10, and then up and down, or you could redefine that to be 20, and then it does 20. I'm just curious if there would be a simple methodology for that as well. That's interesting. It's a cool piece of code.
Yeah,
I would do it a little bit differently. You're definitely speaking about a grid. So I would create a grid rather than just coordinates like +10, +10. And the grid can be adjustable to all the screens that are out there.
Okay.
So I would create some virtual objects, tables, and position them on screen and visible. Maybe even display objects, maybe just simple tables with coordinates on the screen, like 0, 0, 10, 10, 20, 20, or something like that. And each node, each grid node can have each neighbor list, so from what node you can jump on to what nodes, and so on. Some properties for this node, like for basic games map. And when your character moves, you assign you basically do a character XY equals grid spot XY, and he snaps to this particular grid.
Yeah, that's
So,
cool. That's
Would you use in your arrays or your tables? Would you use like ones and zeros to represent places where they could and couldn't go, or what would you?
I would make it more verbose. I would make it maybe some node, and I'll probably at least up, left, right, down, and then I would have a map, two-dimensional map, and based on these properties, left, up, right, down, I would calculate the next position of available positions of the neighbors. Like if my current grid is 5, 5, and if I can move right, it would be 6, 5, and then I ask my map to give me a cell at 6, 5, and I get its coordinates, and I give the character its position, and I assign like a previous grid spot dot I don't know, has character equals nil or false, and the new spot I would say dot has character equals character itself, a character object.
Right.
Okay, I think I can visualize somebody out there feverishly scribbling down all the notes on this as we go through.
That's basically what I did with Laser Puzzle. And
okay. Okay, so you already have a kind of an idea of how this would work.
Yeah, I have it.
Yeah, which we will put a link in the show notes to.
Thank you.
Well, excellent, guys. I think that's so go check out that tutorial. It's on the Corona Labs blog. We'll put a link in the show notes. It's like we said, the code is fairly straightforward, and you should definitely play with it. And if you have something that you create off of it, share it with us. We'd be interested to see. You can come on the show, maybe walk us through what you did, and we can discuss some ideas and things like that. So. All right, guys, I think that's it for this week. We're out of time. As always, it's been a lot of fun, and you guys don't forget to go over and check out coronium.gs. Also, be sure to check the show notes for the links to the Windows Phone apps, and until next week, have a great week and happy coding.